I created this animation and this one as well, all with AI, but I'm not using Claude Code or Claude even like everybody else. A couple months ago, I discovered a new tool called Osmo that has completely changed the way I create animations and edit. So I've been creating educational content on this channel and then at Airtable and Webflow and now at Gumloop. And one of the things I struggle most with is adding animations. I can always imagine in my head what I want the animation to look like, but I can never quite put it in the video. But now with Osmo, I've been adding animations and editing so much faster than any time before. I'm super excited about it. So I want to create a quick video where I walk you through a super simple example, then give you some tips of how you can go ahead and use Osmo in your editing workflow as well. So I'm here in the kind of editor. We've got the AI chat on the left, the timeline on the bottom, and then on the right, the different setup. So I've got this Webflow video where we've got the agenda at the bottom. So let me take a screenshot of this and let's try to recreate that agenda. So I'm going to take that screenshot, drop it in here and say, can you create this agenda? Make everything a control. And I'll talk about controls in a moment. So it's going to go ahead and generate this animation onto the timeline. While it's doing that, let's talk a little bit about how this works, how Osmo works. So when you ask it to create an animation, the AI is actually going to write code to represent that animation. Now, code isn't a video. It's going to use an open source library called Remotion to take that code and turn it into video, right? So you can scrub through the timeline, you can export. All of that is done with Remotion. So let's actually go back and kind of see our animation here. Created our agenda. This looks pretty cool. Now, one of the differences is that this is fully hosted on a URL. And I want to bring your attention to the right where we have these controls. I asked to create as many controls, and these are kind of the things you can edit. So I can change the label. So let's say this is going to be first intro, and then it's going to be how to set up Osmo, and then things like that. I can change all of the colors and the fonts. And because this is code, we're simply changing variables and we can see that change onto the canvas. Now, obviously I can iterate here. I can say, can you add a background color control that goes behind the whole animation and a vignette at the bottom as well. And it's going to go ahead and iterate on it. Awesome. So now I have a background color right here that I can adjust and a vignette at the bottom where I can adjust its, right? Awesome. Now, very, very simple. I want to give you some additional tips that I've learned in, working with this tool for a few months. First is how do you adjust your style to your animations to fit your websites or your project style. So how I do that is through project notes. Now, these is kind of a system prompt. It's sent with every message. And this is where I kind of put in preferences for my website. Now, how I like to communicate the preferences of my setup to Osmo is by creating a design.md. So I'm going to drop a link to this referral.design website. What this is that you give it a website and it's going to give you this kind of markdown file that you can use to communicate to AI what your styling is. So let's take this Gumroad example. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to add it in to our project notes. And now that I have that, I can say, can you adjust this animation to match the styling in project notes? And it's going to go ahead and update the styling. All right, now our little agenda looks much more like Gumroad, the website that we have. It collected the colors and the styling and the font. So that's one example of using project notes to match your setup. Now, another tip is that Osmo, or these AI animators, are great at reading HTML. So often when I want to render something in our tool, like here's an example, right, where I want to explain this concept in Gumloop, which is a rule that you can create for an agent. Well, if I want to recreate this little pop-up, what I can do is I can inspect and I can grab the HTML and give it to Osmo to recreate. So I've already done that in an existing video right here, where I gave it the HTML and I said, recreate this element from our app as an animation. And then what I did is I said, hey, can you make this feel like a card shuffle? And that's how we created this right here, where it shuffles from one to the other. So Osmo and AI is great at taking HTML and then writing code to re-render it in the canvas. So if you're like me, creating educational content and want to recreate an existing element, Osmo is great at that. So that's what I wanted to show you. Osmo has completely changed the way I edit in my workflow. I'd be curious if you want me to show some live examples or share what I've built. Now, I would love to ask you, what are you animating or what are you editing? And yeah, let me know. Now, quick note, I'm not sponsored by Osmo. This is not a sponsored review. I am an investor in Osmo and I am probably their #1 user. So that's why I wanted to create this video. But yeah, let me know in the comments where you'd like me to take this from here.